Okay, lesson 2, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At the end of this lesson, what do we want you to know? Well, we want you to know why the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and we want you to know the justifications for America doing so. There's 3 parts to this lesson. There's a starter picture, which I want you to just think about, and if you can discuss it, get online, talk to your friends. The second part of this is to sort some reasons out and decide whether they are private or public. And finally is to make your own speech regarding this. I'll explain as we go through. So, here you go, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Key questions. Do you think President Truman, who was in charge of America at that time, would reveal the following reasons to the American public, yes or no? Right, here's your starter picture. If you were doing this and looking at this, doesn't matter if your answers are right or wrong, it's about thinking, what do you think is happening in the picture? Why did you believe it was happening? Why do you think so many people were watching? Do you think it's an act of war or murder? And then think about work you've already done in class, whether it's the Blitz, whether it's Dresden, or whether it's modern events, like events that have been taking place in Yemen and Syria, Libya, Afghanistan over recent years. Is it ever possible to justify the killing of civilians or prisoners of war? Right. The answer is, this is a bit difficult because not all of them have answers. Some of it is down to your own personal choice. So in this picture it is a prisoner of war being executed by a Japanese soldier. I think the prisoner of war was possibly Australian. It's hard to tell, and it's impossible to tell the reason why it was happening. It was probably happening because they tried to escape, or for some other reason. It's probably just happening as an example to all those people who are being forced to watch that they shouldn't misbehave. The Japanese treated prisoners of war really badly during World War II. They didn't believe it was honourable to surrender or to give in, hence their treatment of that. And again, you've now got to decide whether you think it's ever justifiable. In the modern world, this would be a war crime and people would be arrested for that. For the rest of the lesson, we're going to look at these reasons. What you've got to decide for each of these reasons, are they for or against the dropping of the atomic bomb, and would they be kept private or public? Do they suggest that it was a good idea to drop the bomb or a bad idea to drop the bomb? Would you tell people about them? Would you keep them secret? So, reason 1. Britain and America, their allies, had already had to invade France and Italy in World War II. That had cost huge amounts of life, huge amount of money. They knew it would be even harder to invade Japan. Invading Japan, which is lots of small islands, would probably cost around 500,000 lives and millions of dollars. Remember, this war has been going on for 6 years. People were already fed up of it. So this would be in people's thinking. If they could drop the bomb, not lose these 500,000 lives, that would be for them a good thing. Therefore, this is a reason that would be made very public at the time. Second, the cost of the bomb, $40 billion just to design this bomb. You've got 2 new types of bomb and nobody knows what they're going to do. In fact, scientists think this bomb would probably crack the Earth's core. So they were really worried about using it. Equally, they wanted to know, they wanted to test it. So maybe we're looking at this and going, you know what, would you tell the public that this was an experiment? Maybe not. Can't argue with this one. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki forced the surrender of Japan. It's the last action of World War II and ended 6 years of war. Again, I think you're saying to the people quite publicly at the time that this was a good thing because it ended World War II. Like we've talked about, Japan had this belief, this very honourable belief in what was called the Bushido Code. So surrender was dishonourable. Japanese officers would kill themselves, sometimes rather than be captured. Japanese pilots would fly their planes into the boats of ships, the decks of battleships, in order to destroy them. They treated prisoners of war quite badly, so again, maybe not a public reason, but certainly one of the reasons that people wanted to do it. President Roosevelt is America's most famous president. He promised after the bombing of Japan that he would get revenge, and some people would argue that this was just revenge. There's equally evidence to suggest that Japan were ready to surrender. Cities in Japan like Tokyo had been completely bombed out, and there was negotiations taking place between Russia. At this point, America and Russia are fighting the same war against the same enemy, but they don't like each other, and America did not want did not want Japan to surrender to Russia. They also wanted to show Russia how powerful they were, and so the argument goes they dropped the bomb to do this. The dropping of the bomb killed 100,000 people in about 4 minutes or something ridiculous. The bomb also released radiation that has been going on, and therefore there have been deaths in Hiroshima and Nagasaki ever since, and problems with infertility. Many people argue this dropping of the bombs was unnecessary for the repercussions, things we didn't know at the time, the radiation sickness, the problems it would cause. Developing this bomb gave the Americans an advantage over Russia. So they hated Russia. Russia was communist at this time. America is capitalist. They're in what's called the Cold War with each other, a war where they're spying on each other, they don't trust each other. And because America had got this new type of bomb, Russia then developed their own type of bomb. We get involved in something called the arms race, which left us with enough nuclear weapons in the world to destroy the planet. Okay, so you've looked at all them. What we want you to do is just put together a speech. The first speech should be you pretending to be President Truman. You announce the dropping of the bomb to America probably the day after. This is the end of the war. It's all great. It was the right thing to do. And pick on the reasons you're going to use there and really explain this was the right thing to do. It's a piece of propaganda to make the American people cheer for the end of the war and that you've done the right thing. The second thing is Truman writing years afterwards saying, these are the actual reasons I gave the order. This is where you can include the private stuff and say, for the American people it was good, but in reality we needed to know what the bomb was going to do. Try to put that together. When you've got them together, email them through to your teacher. If you wanted to look at this, it gives you some idea of what would happen if you dropped a nuclear bomb on a local site. It will give you a radius and you can see how damaging these bombs are.